Alright, Shalom. Before I get started, Barakatha Yahweh, Barakatha Yahweh Shai, Barakatha Yahweh, Barakatha Yahweh Shai, Barakatha Yahweh, Barakatha Yahweh Shai, Kal Halal Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Racha Kwadash. Double honor to the elders apostles, great millstone who rule well and teach well, and who are the true leaders of Israel today. Start with Elder Apostle Tahar on down. Also like to give double honor to the head and the elder of the Man of Israel camp, the Chazak, whom I teach under down here in Greenville, South Carolina. And also like to give another shout out to you, Sit Akim, your brothers out there that's pushing this word and this truth and all sincerity and righteousness in these last days. All right, to y'all like to say shalom. All right, now coming back through the spirit and power, Yahweh Shem Shah with another exhortation video. Lord willing, this video will be found edifying. And pretty much, while I was on the plantation, I had it on my mind, like, pretty much, pretty much we got to kill out that old man. All right, we got to examine ourselves, to make sure, we don't tap into that old man. All right, because, it's going to be certain days where, that old man going to try to creep in. All right, and we got to examine that. And when we examine that, we got to cast that off, man. All right, especially, knowing that we are in these last days, the spirit of Satan going to, try to fuck with you and make you, go back to your old ways, man. And, we done came too far, to go back into our old ways, man. All right, we done came a long way, all right, to be going back to that old man, whether if it's, you selling drugs or, committing adultery. Maybe you was an adulterer in the word and that spirit tapping back, on you. Or maybe you was maybe you was one of them man that want to just deal with a lot of women. Hey, man, we got to tap out of that, man. We got to tap out of that. We got to do, according to the spirit, man. We can't do what the flesh want us to what the flesh want us to do. We got to do what the spirit, want us to do. And I ain't gonna say it's gonna be easy. From time to time, it will get hard. It will get hard, but at the end of the day, we still gotta, do our best, to be in the spirit, cause like what the scripture said, we don't fight against flesh and blood, but against all right, matter of fact, let's just get it. Cause like I said, them demons, them demons gonna attack, man. That's why the scripture say, put on the whole armor of God. You see? But anyway, Ephesians, chapter 6 and verse 12. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. So you're gonna have demons attacking you, trying to get you to go back to being that old man. And, you got to see, when Satan is attacking you, when Satan putting that, trying to put that in your mindset, trying to establish you being that old man again, because that's ultimately what he wants. You see, he wants us, to fall. He wants us to, not make it. Laughing at something at the job that I just saw. But anyway, Slakia, man. But yeah, man, Satan is gonna try to attack us on every angle, man. And we gotta try to counter that, Like, a boxer, you counter the shots, right? You make them miss and they pay for it. That's what we gotta do. But anyway, let's get Ephesians, chapter 4 and verse 22. And it says that ye put off concerning the former conversations. And, we're going to get that word for conversation. Because it ain't just talking about, a conversation that you have. No, you got to go into the word. That's why, we going into the blue letter, right? We look words up, because, certain words, you have to look up to get the real, definition of them. Because when you think of a conversation, you're thinking about, how you talk to somebody, or, what somebody said to you. This conversation, when you go into the Greek word, right, for that word conversation. All right, let's get it. There you go.
Strong's G391. Anastrophe.
All right, and it says manner of life, conduct, behavior, department. So, put it in short terms, pretty much what it means is, the way you act, the way you carry yourself, the way you conduct yourself, right? That's what it means. All right, to where it says put out the form of conversations, right? So let's go back. It says that ye put off concerning the form of conversation. So the way you once lived, the way you once lived, you must put that off. You must cast that off. Don't be that old man, right? We shouldn't think about being in that old man spirit. You should want to be that new man, right? You shouldn't want to live how you lived in the past, right? That's the whole point, man. We're supposed to learn from our mistakes that we did in the past, in this life, you want to be better. You want to see growth, pretty much. You want to be perfect, like how Yahweh Shah said, be perfect, just like how he was perfect, roughly paraphrasing, man. Oh, man. But yeah, like how Yahweh Shah said, be perfect, for I am, be perfect, how I'm perfect, roughly paraphrasing. Hey, man, we want to be perfect, man. But anyway, it says that you put off concerning the former conversations, the old man. When it said that old man, meaning the way you used to be, the old you. You must put that off, because you being that old man can get you killed. You being that old man can get you killed, man. We ain't trying to be. What was the point of you doing that? Anyway, it's a slot, man. Damn car. But anyway, you don't want to be that. You don't want to be that old man. You want to become that new man. All right, because that old man will get you killed. That old man ain't no good for you. You see? But it says, which is corrupt. You see? That old man is corrupt. Yahweh Shah ain't dealing with the old man, because it's corrupt. The Lord ain't dealing with corrupt. You been a nigga, pretty much. You corrupt. The Lord, you're not gonna have salvation if you corrupt. The Lord expects us to be pure, although we ain't gonna be 100% pure, but we're gonna be somewhat pure. We're gonna be more pure than these 2/3 out here. You see? But it says, which is corrupt according to the deceitful lust. Verse 23. It says, and be renewed in the spirit of your mind. Meaning you got to change your mindset. When you cast off that old man, you must be in a new mindset. You see? You becoming a new man is going to have you in a different spirit and a different mindset. You're going to think different. You're going to act different. You're going to move different. You're not going to move like how you once did, all right, when you was that old man. Because you understand that it's life and death. I mean, you understand that the old man can lead to death. So you're not going to, think about being that old man. Because the consequences, all right, that can come with it. Verse 24, it says, and that you put on the new man, which after Yahweh is created in righteousness and true holiness. You see? So, once you put on that new man, you're gonna become holy. And that word holy means what? Separate. You're gonna be separate from, these other niggas out here. You're not gonna be looked at as an old man. You're gonna be looked at as separate. So let's go over now to the book of 2 Corinthians, all right, chapter 5 and verse 17. And it says, therefore, if any man be in Hamashiach, so meaning if you claiming to follow Yahweh Shai, right? It says he is a new creature. Now, that don't mean everybody who, you know, claiming to, you know, Yahweh Shai gonna become new, because, hey, Lord said, everybody that said, Lord, Lord, should not, you know, enter into the kingdom of heaven. So just because you know, you claiming to follow Yahweh Shai and, you know, be a follower of Yahweh Shai don't mean you're a new creature. You have to really, you know, walk the walk and talk the talk. So it says, therefore, if any man be in Hamashiach, he is a new creature. Old things are passed away. You see that? That old you is going to be passed away. That old man done died. You done became a new man. You a newborn babe. You see? When you came into this truth, you became a newborn babe, man. You know? You pretty much kind of became a new creature. Because you once you find out about the truth, hey man, you left that worldly shit alone. Now don't get me wrong, yeah, that shit is gonna creep back up because that's Satan. But you became a new creature when, you know, you picked up the Bible and understood who you was as an Israelite, and you got serious with this thing. You became a new, it was like you born again. Your mind changed, you see? And you got to continue to have that mindset and grow with it. Don't look back, grow. And I'm talking to myself first and foremost. You know, that because the Lord had put it in my spirit, like, nigga, you gotta grow. You can't be doing the same shit over and over. It's time for you to grow up, son. You know? And that was, you know, inspiring me to do this video. You can't be that old man. Grow the hell up. Like the movie Baby Boy. You can't be a baby boy all the time, man. It's time for you to grow up. You know? It says, old things are passed away. Behold, all things are become new. So you must become new, man. And once you become new, you're gonna grow up. You're gonna be better than when you was that old man. You know, because you know better. And once you know better, you what? You do better. You know? Who don't want to do better? I know I want to do better. You know? You'll be a fool if you say you don't want to do better. You know? Because what man don't want to be better than his old self? You know? Just like anybody who play a sport, they're going to want to be better than what they was the year before. Right? If you play a sport, right? I'm pretty sure every athlete or whatever, you know, whether it's just a work on a regular job, you're gonna want to be better than what you was the day before, pretty much. You know, I know I do. I'm pretty sure the brothers around me, you know, want to be, you know, better than what they was before. You know. So now let's get 2 Corinthians. We'll end it with this. It's the book of 2 Corinthians 13 and verse 5. And it says, examine yourselves. You see that? And the brother, you know, the Bop, you know, he always bring this scripture out, you know. Shout out to that brother. But anyway, examine yourselves. And that's something we should do. We should examine ourselves, man. You know, especially in these times that we are living in, man. You want to examine yourselves, man. Because if you don't, hey, man, you will fall. You know, you will fall, man, if you don't examine yourself. Because there's something we got to work on, you know. There's things we got to work on ourselves every day. If we don't examine ourselves. If you don't examine yourself, there's something that's going to hinder you from growing. You know, we all got to examine ourselves, man. Every day. It says, examine yourselves, whether ye be in the faith. Prove your own self. Know ye not your own selves, how that Yahweh Shai HaMashiach is in you? It said you be reprobates. You see that? Yahweh Shai is in us. So if we claiming to follow Yahweh Shai, We got to move like how Yahweh Shai was, man. We got to examine ourselves. We got to move right. We got to move in the right direction like how Yahweh Shai was, man. Like I said, examine yourselves. Examine yourself. Examine. Look and see what you need to work on. What is your weaknesses? Is you going back to the old man? Is you doing this or you doing that? If you is, fix it before it's too late. Because, hey man, the doors of mercy is getting ready to run out. It's very slim. The Lord is having mercy right now, man. And the mercy is very slim. You know, it's very, very slim. So, Lord willing, this video was edifying. I'm going to close with giving all praise and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rachak Wadash. Double honor to the elders, apostles, great millstone, rule well and teach well. You who are the true leaders of Israel today, start with the apostle on down. Also, like to give double honor to the head and the elder of the man of Israel camp, Chazak, whom I teach under down here in Greenville, South Carolina. And shalom to you, sincere Akim. Shalom.